Hey guys, some tackle tips for today. We're talking hard baits. I'm going to give you some tips on what I do, some slight modifications, and some things I do to enhance how productive these hard baits are for me. They play in the early part of the season, so it's important. Proven stuff that I've got to show you, so please like and subscribe if you haven't, and stop back here and we'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, we're talking about hard baits. They play in the early part of the season, so it's important whether it's a jerkbait or a square bill crankbait or a shallow diving crankbait. In the early part of the season, crankbaits will play, jerkbaits will play definitely, and some of the modifications I want to show you today. First one is, and I just don't know why this escapes so many people. I see video after video. You can watch reels of videos on people with tournament fishing misses professionally. Fish pulling off, heartbreaks with fish coming off on hard baits. People scared of using hard baits because of fish coming off. And one of the things I learned early on, and I learned it from watching a Kevin Van Dam video, is having the right hooks on your crankbaits is critical. And that first Kevin Van Dam video I watched on his setup, and why wouldn't you follow arguably the best angler ever, why wouldn't you follow his system? He's caught countless fish and he's made countless mistakes probably early because he's been through so many fish on jerkbaits and crankbaits. Why wouldn't you follow that guy's system? So anyways, I'm going to drop his video in the description below so you can check that out. But one of the keys to it is the hook. The stock hook on most crankbaits has got to be replaced. I believe it. I do it. Kevin Van Dam does it. So it's good enough for him. It's good enough for me. It works. I've done it now for a few seasons, and it's eliminated the concern when I get hooked up with a nice fish on a crankbait that I'm going to lose him. If the components in the system are right, you're going to get that fish to the boat. And one of the very first things is his getting this Mustad Ultra Point Kevin Van Dam Elite Treble Hook on here, and it's a 2x short, 1x strong, chemically sharpened Mustad Ultra Point hook. This thing is super sharp. It's stronger than a typical hook. It's more compact. It's pulled in. The gap on it, he's got a curled over gap on this hook. It's not a round gap, but it's a bent-in gap. And what that does is first of all, the shortness of it helps get the fish's lips closer to the bait so he doesn't have as much leverage on the bait to throw it when they come out of the water. That's one. Two, it's strong, so it's not going to bend out on you. And three, the orientation of the gap on it keeps the fish hooked up. When you're pulling on a fish on a hook that's got any weight to it, you can open up a hole in their lip, and if you don't have a gap that's shaped like this one, and I'll drop a photo in there of this particular hook to show how that gap is turned over and closed a little bit, that keeps those fish buttoned up. When a gap opens up between the hook and their lips or their mouth or the skin of the fish, if you're dragging a 4-pounder back to the boat, and you open up a hole and they jump up and got a lot of room and leverage to throw that bait, you can throw regular hooks off, no problem. So step one, I change all the hooks to Mustad Ultra Point, 2x strong, 1x short. I'm sorry, get that right. 2x short, 1x strong. So it's a 2x short, 1x strong, Mustad Ultra Point, and I typically use 4 and 6s. Some 8s, depending on the bait that I'm throwing and the size of the bait I'm throwing, but mostly 4, 6s, and 8s are the size. I leave the snap rings alone. Most of the snap rings are pretty high quality on most of the decent baits that you buy today, but I do use this Texas Tackle patented little snap ring plier. It's super handy. It's real easy to manipulate getting all these hooks changed. And literally, I have 2 full Craftsman tackle boxes full of hard baits, one for crankbaits, one for jerkbaits and topwater baits, and I've changed all of the hooks. All of the stock hooks are gone on all of the baits, and they're all changed to these Mustad Ultra Point KVD hooks. So this stainless steel Texas Tackle patented little handheld snap ring plier is a great one to use. I'll drop that in the description below, but it's real convenient. It works really well, and you can get really fast at taking these hooks on and off if you're doing it in a production mode like I did to get everything changed out. The next thing I did is for organization. You can see they're all piled in here, and I know guys have done it when they put a bunch of jerk baits in here. If you don't put hook bonnets on them, these little green bonnets that are on the bottom of the hooks, if you don't put those on, you can go to get the bait you want and pull up a rat's nest of lures to try to get yourself unhooked up. These help you organize your stuff very well. And this hook bonnet is made by Al's Goldfish Lure Company. You can get them on Amazon. I'll leave those in the description below. And what I like about them, they're patented. But what I like about them, and I like about using this Texas Tackle snap ring pliers, is they're made to snap on and off. And there's a point on there where it snaps and it grabs onto the hook. There's some plastic molded in there that lets it clip onto the hook. And when you're putting it on and taking it off, they're real easy to, you can feel it pop and click on and pop and click off to the lure. So all my crankbaits, every single one of them, all my topwaters, all my jerk baits, they all have hook bonnets on them, and I use the snap ring pliers to pop them off, and they then snap back on. They pop right back on. Keeps them organized. So, a couple of things. Change out all your hooks. Get yourself some bonnets, and you'll avoid the heartbreak that comes with getting a big fish to the boat and having it pop off. You can, I might even put in the description below some heartache from big tournaments. I mean, Bassmaster Classic Day 3, final day Bassmaster Classic type of heartbreak from people pulling off big smallmouth, and it's happened at the club level probably 100 times more than that, and it can be simply avoided by using the right components in the system, and certainly starting at the bait, getting those stock hooks changed out for some proven KVD series Mustad Ultra Point hooks is step one in that system. So the other parts of the components of the hard bait system that are important to landing fish so that you're not afraid to use hard baits in key situations to get big fish to the boat are definitely the rod and the reel setup. For me, I'm a 6-scale guy. I've got, for my jerk baits, I've got a 7-foot medium action 6-scale Aquilos rod, and that's a medium action rod that's got a good tip to help with the movement and the snapping of the jerk bait, but also has a medium action and some good give in the first third of that rod, that if it loads up and the fish is surging and loading, that medium action and the action in that tip will surge with the fish and not tear that big gap that I talked about earlier in the fish's mouth, and allow you to get him back to the boat. So the rod plays an important factor in it. I do use a high capacity reel. I'm using a Hammer series reel on there with a higher capacity on it, because I'm reeling up slack as I jerk and jerk and pause. I've got to reel up, or if I've got to catch up quick to a fish, I like to use a faster action. So here I'm even up to a 8-0 to 1 or a 7-3 to 1 reel will help you pick up line faster. Some guys have different theories. They'll even use a slower gear ratio reel, maybe makes them slow down a little bit, but I like to be able to pick up my line fast, because some of those motions when the water warms up anyways is a little faster. It's easier when it's the water's cold because your pauses are longer and you have more time, but the reel will help. But the rod is super important. Medium action, got the right tip to move the bait but also allow it to surge. And then for my crankbait setup, I use a 6-gill Kraken 7-foot medium power crankbait rod designed for crankbait fishing, and that really is soft in that first third of the tip and allows for it's got plenty of power in it to get the bait down. You know, I can get big baits and down to depth, and really that's more depending on the line size and the design of the crankbait, but I can get them down and handle the crankbaits no problem with this rod. But when it loads up, when the fish loads up on it, the rod really does a lot of work, and you can trust it. You know you've got the right hooks on there with those triple grips, and you can let the rod do some work. The other thing in the system, then, you got the rod, and then I use a 5:3-to-1 reel, a slower gear ratio reel. I've got the 5:3-to-1 hammer reel, 6-gill hammer reel on my crankbait rod. But then you pair those up with the right line. And in this case, I use 832 Suffix braid. I use it on all. This is 10-pound Ghost 832 Suffix braid. I use that all on almost all my rods and reels. I'm using a braid to fluoro combination or a braid to mono combination. And in this case, braid to fluoro because fluoro sinks, and I use Suffix Advanced Fluorocarbon. And I'll use 10 or 12 pound, depending on how deep I want to get the crankbait. Sometimes you can even go up into 15 and 20 if you're throwing a square bill crankbait. But I'll tie an FG knot from my fluorocarbon leader to my braid mainline, and I like braid mainline because braid mainline does not rat's nest up on you. It's easy to manage. It casts further, in my opinion, than just using a full spool of fluorocarbon on there. It's just easier to manage your line, I think, when you're trying to get long casts with crankbaits and jerkbaits. So braid to fluoro, Suffix products help with the line. Have the right rod, medium action rods, something with a good tip to get action in your jerkbaits, something with a soft tip to give you give for your crankbaits with my rods, and then Mustad's Ultra Point Triple Grip KVD Series 2X short, 1X strong Ultra Point hooks. And your crankbait and jerkbait fishing will be a bonus for you. It will not cause you heartache, and then you'll be using it more, and you'll be using it where other people maybe are afraid of it or aren't successful getting fish to the boat, because crankbaits and jerkbaits put big fish in the boat.